The opinions and views expressed on the morning meeting do not necessarily represent the opinions and views of the management, staff, or advertisers of WTAD. That being said, the opinions expressed for the next hour are most likely correct and widely accepted amongst right-thinking people. It's time for the morning meeting.
Yes, it is live from the Lincoln Douglas building in downtown Quincy. It is the only local show taking a principled stand on the issues of the day on the district's most flammable intersection. It's the morning meeting with Sean Seacrease and Quaid on Talk Radio 930 WTAD. Good news, we've been able to suss out who the station fork and paper towel Nazis are, and it turns out they're the same person. If that is you during this holiday season, consider yourself on alert.
Isn't it always that way, that the paper towels and the plastic forks are governed by the same person?
Yes. Whether or not they have the official title or if it's an unofficial title. In this case, it's both. He also has gone mad with power because he has the only key to the supply closet in order to replenish those items.
But I have a key to his office, and I wonder if there's an extra key to the supply closet in his office. I'm just trying to figure out a way around.
I'm sure there is, because he's essentially, if you remember the keymaker from the Matrix trilogy, that's essentially him.
Now, brute force always works. And I don't mean for him, but I mean for the supply closet itself.
And in one more note to let you know kind of how backwards some things are here at the palatial WTAD facility. Whoever installed those hollow core office doors installed all the handles and locks backwards, so it's actually like a remedial lock-picking challenge. Like blind people that are missing two fingers can pick those locks. And with my debit card, I can let myself into any office in the building, and I often do. So
the way you looked at me, it kind of implied that
I've got into your office
many times.
Many times. Well, good morning. It is the morning meeting this morning. Plenty coming up this morning. Tony Katz threatening to make an appearance on the show today.
Is he now?
Yes, he is. But we get to start with something that I've been looking forward to for a little while now. His name is Gerald Celente, and he is the publisher of the Trends Journal. He is essentially an independent thinker who looks ahead as to what's coming in the coming fiscal quarters, the coming year, and tries to enumerate the changes that will arrive during that time period. And he's been doing this for quite some time. Gerald Celente, good morning, and welcome to the morning meeting.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Now, we're right here at the end of 2014, and while some people like to look back and sort of remember and celebrate the things that happened, you're busy looking forward to 2015 already with your Trends Journal. We're going to get into a lot of detailed specifics on some things as we go along this morning. But just tell us first, for people who might not be familiar, how did you start doing this, and why did you undertake this monumental task to try and essentially predict the future?
Well, no one could predict the future because there are wild cards. But current events form future trends. So we're all doing in life what we're doing because of decisions that we've made. And again, the wild cards, that changes the game. You never know when they're going to hit. And what happens, though, if you think about it, we go to college or high school, and they teach us history, but nobody teaches us how to look ahead. So what happened with me, I began my career at a graduate school many years ago, and I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County in New York. And then I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I taught American politics and campaign technology at St. John's University. And then actually I moved out to Illinois, or as we used to call it back in the Bronx, Illinois. And I was with a trade association for representing the chemical industry. So I used to live between Chicago and D.C. And it was in the late 70s, and I had been around long enough. I had pictures of me and Reagan, this one, that one. And the Iranian crisis was breaking out. And I've been following this for years. I knew how the CIA and the MI6 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in Iran in 1953. He had the nerve to want to nationalize the oil and take it out of the hands of what was then Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, and Standard Oil. So they overthrew the government. So when the revolution began in the late 70s, and I'm watching this thing unfold, I'm saying this thing is for real. But I watched how it was spun by the media. And Jimmy Carter, here's when I became a political atheist. He came back from spending New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife. And he comes up to the microphones. In those days, it was a big deal when the president went overseas. And he salutes as he walks out of the helicopter. And he announces to the American people that, quote, the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. And I said, what a load of garbage this. This guy's going down. I'm watching this thing unfold. And I realized that two things were going to happen. Oil prices would go up and gold prices would go up. So after I got over my anger and disappointment and how they were coloring this thing, I said, what will be the implications? So I began trading gold and oil futures, not knowing what I was doing. And I ended up making enough money to quit my job, and I began the Trends Research Institute in 1980. And it's all based on what's going on in the world and breaking through the media, which I call them prostitutes. And you're seeing one incident after another. How many more wars do they have to sell? How much more of government propaganda does the media have to keep selling? And you look at, by the way, it's a revolving door. The guy that used to be the spokesperson for Obama, Carney.
Mm-hmm. Jay Carney.
Yeah, right. Carney, that's the nickname for a carnival man, a Carney. And he was what, Time magazine? It's a revolving door. So what I do is I only look for facts. And now, of course, with the Internet, it's like the Alexandrian library. So now you have issues going on. I'll read Fars. I'll read what the Iranians have to say. I'll read Haaretz. I'll read what the Israelis have to say, Jerusalem Post. I'll go to Al Jazeera. So I'll go to China Daily, Global Times. I look for information. I never know what's true or not, but then you start getting a sense of it. And the other thing is that's very important is that all things are connected. Or as Chief Seattle is alleged to have said, all things are connected like the blood which unites us all. So what we do is we make connections between different fields. So, for example, oil prices. We've been on this. We have a show every weekday. It's part of the subscription. It's called Trends in the News. Mm-hmm. I nailed this thing back in June when oil prices peaked at $115 a barrel. And they're starting to go down. I'm saying to myself, this is the heavy driving season. Prices should be going up, and they're going down. And then you start hearing, well, they're doing it to knock Russia out. Well, okay, and I keep looking. And it's not an oil issue. It's an oversupply of commodities worldwide as the global economies are slowing down. But they don't put it in that context. All they do is concentrate on oil, not looking at corn prices, not looking at copper prices. A ton of rebar, reinforcement rod, in China is cheaper than a ton of cabbage. That's how much oversupply of product there is. So as we look at it, we start putting all the pieces together, and we come up with a trend. So what's one of the top trends for 2015? Price wars. You can see it happen. Go to your mall, 40, 50, 75% off. Again, you go look at commodities. Oil. Then you look at the implications. Okay, what's this going to do to the whole fracking industry? Well, there's over $1 trillion out there that they're looking at that is going toward energy projects that's going to be axed. Because yet fracking comes in at a certain number, and they're hitting below it for a lot of companies.
Gerald
What's
Celente,
it going to do to currencies?
Gerald Celente, our guest this morning. He is the publisher of Trends Journal with us this morning on the morning meeting. Gerald, you very compellingly kind of weave a lot of things together, and two of those things, without sounding conspiratorial, have really been in the forefront of my mind for some time now, and that is that the media, the big media in this country, isn't so much interested in reporting the news as it is in filtering what information that we can get here in this country. And you see more of that exposed because of the easy access to foreign news services. You mentioned whether it's just as simple as looking at what's going on in Europe or looking at Al Jazeera or other options for news. You see very different stories being told with different information when you look other places around the world. And also you're talking about the commodities issues and the price wars that are coming up. I feel like when you start to weave these things together that we in the general sense of the American public are just being manipulated for some other use.
It's the grand manipulation, and that's another one of our trends, actually, and it's written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who was the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. You know, so we're guys that have been around and know what it looks like, and this isn't a conspiracy. I'll give you a manipulation. You ever hear of quantitative easing? Who could have invented that one? I got an idea. We're going to change the rules, and we're going to buy up mortgage-backed securities and bonds. We're going to just start doing it, and we're going to run $4 trillion plus in the hole to keep the Ponzi scheme going. Ponzi scheme? Yeah, because then what we're also going to do, we're not going to raise interest rates. They have not raised interest rates since 2006. And we, at best, you look at the numbers. Again, looking at the current events, forming future trends, you look at the new housing data that just came out. And it's soft. U.S. housing start permits fall. Trends are showing a groundbreaking decline, 1.6%. And you look at the numbers going on, the single-family home segment, the largest part of the market fell 5.4%. Okay, you have record low interest rates. So what does this mean? The Ponzi scheme. You can't put your money in the bank because you don't get any interest on it. And to make up the manipulation, in which you can't make this kind of stuff up, if you're over there in Europe, the guy running the show over there, Mario Draghi, former guy running the European division of the Goldman Sachs gang, that's the European Central Bank president, I got one for you. Let's have negative interest rates. Yeah, that's right. You put your money in the bank, you pay us 0.25% to keep it there. So when I say this isn't a conspiracy theory, how about they rig the LIBOR rate? That's the interest rates that we all pay, not making it up. No, all they do is they rigged over $700 trillion. And what do? They give the guys a fine. Don't do any jaywalking. Don't talk back to a policeman. Don't do anything bad. We'll beat the hell out of you, lock you up, but steal trillions of bucks? Well, they misled us. We'll give them a fine, and nobody goes to jail. Forex market, $5.3 trillion a day. Not a conspiracy theory, a fact. They rigged the markets. 5.3 trillion of currency trading rigged. It's in front of us. You see it every day, and there's no heads roll. And they just keep doing it, so that's the grand manipulation. Here, 4 words killed capitalism. This is not a capitalistic country. Get over the trip, it's gone. 4 words killed it, too big to fail. In capitalism, nobody's too big to fail. And by the way, it's called a merger of state and corporate powers, and by definition, that's called fascism. That's what Mussolini called it. And then one of our top trends, therefore, is bankism, not capitalism. And that's being written by Nomi Prinz, who's famous for her writing about banks. We came up with the trend. She's writing about it. And her book out now, that's a huge book, is All the President's Bankers. So you keep putting the pieces together, and you see where we're going.
Gerald Celente, our guest this morning on The Morning Meeting, publisher of Trends Journal. You can also check him out at trendsjournal.com. Gerald, we got just a couple of minutes left on the show this morning. We appreciate your time. There is one thing that kind of dovetails with what we were talking about with the media that I know you've been looking at for the upcoming year and into the future, and that's how the wave of selfie journalism that kind of crested for us this year in 2014, especially we saw a lot of it with the rioting going on in Ferguson and then with the Eric Garner situation in New York. But this is here to stay, yes? I mean, that's the indication that I've gotten from you.
Yes, our CEO, his name is Gerald Celente. He was the editor-in-chief of Gannett News Service. This guy's been around for a long time. And you get the inside scoop with him like you don't get anywhere else. And what's happening with the major media, it's all being consolidated. It's being bought up by hedge funds, private equity groups, and all they're interested is in bottom line. They're cutting copy desks all over. What the story is about is how the selfie journalism is the wave of the future because they're leaving huge gaps. There are no feet on the beat anymore. So you're not getting really local coverage, community coverage, and that's how it all used to begin. Something would happen in the community, it'd be picked up by the wire services, and then it'd be come into a story. That's not happening anymore. It's all consolidated. So what we're looking at in this story, there's huge opportunities to reinvent what used to be. There is no fourth estate anymore. There used to be what? The news business used to watch over us and give us the information from the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. The fourth branch was the media. It's no longer that. So with selfie journalism, what Gerald Celente is showing, there's great opportunity here. There's great opportunity to reinvent what's been killed by the mergers and acquisitions, by the corporate takeovers. And by the way, the guy that began all of this, and again, being a political atheist, I mean, I could go on with Bush about what's going on with the CIA and torture, but go back to Clinton. This guy was the biggest sellout America's ever seen. The biggest. He deregulated the Glass-Steagall Act, which allowed the bankers to steal all our dough. He deregulated the communications industry that allowed a few bigs to own everything, going back to what I'm talking about with media. He also brought us GMOs and NAFTA, not to forget that one, selling our jobs out. So what we're looking at are all of the opportunities that exist because of the consolidation.
Gerald Celente, our guest this morning on the Morning Meeting, the publisher of Trends Journal. It's trendsjournal.com. You can check it out there and get more. Gerald, it's an incredible portrait that you paint, and we didn't have time but just to scratch the surface of it. We appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. All the best.
Where we go, others will follow.
That's who we are.
Even if it's not the best idea. The Morning Meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD.
This is Mark Levin, and you're listening to the Morning Meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD.
Ever notice when you're making up some quick, you stir until it's rich and thick? You hate to take that first little sip, 'cause you know it'll be gone in a zip. It's so rich and thick and chocolate that you can't drink
not
it
right.
so. If it's quick, don't do Leo. That's the saddest sound I know.
Now we're sitting there doing the interview with Gerald Celente, and Quade's looking at me going, he kind of sounds like the Nesquik bunny from when we were kids. So he wanted to come back and see if I agree. I do agree.
There is a similarity there.
He could have made a fortune as a voiceover
I like
artist.
Gerald, by the way.
Yeah, we're not making fun. I mean, some people sound like other things. It's just like some people look like other people. But no, he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. He sent us this thing that, okay, normally when we have a guest on the show, they'll send you like a quick one sheet of what they're up to and, what their absolute current up-to-the-minute status is. He sent us like a literal galley publication of the Trends Journal for next year. It's like 36 pages of stuff.
So you got like a whole issue.
Yeah, we did. And he was just an amazingly passionate guest.
Yeah.
And boy, he sees a lot of things that are going on. Speaking of how we don't have time to get to it now, hopefully we can get to it at the end of the show today. Greenpeace, that organization that's always looking for a peaceful solution to what they feel are environmental oversteps.
The PETA of the sea.
Is
that wrong?
And I say that because this is largely a group of jerks who overstep their bounds and take a militant stance in order to defend Mother Earth. They have crossed the lines, literally, and now they are wanted in Peru, and they're wanted by me as well. So hopefully we'll get to that. They have defaced one of the irreplaceable monuments on this earth. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Peru was a big hint, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that for you coming up at the end of the show.
I'm writing down what I think perhaps. Oh, I know this one. What are you writing down an answer?
Yes. All right, we'll see.
No, I know this is correct.
Okay. Yes.
I see. I knew this.
Yes, that's right. And you didn't have to watch Ancient Aliens to know it either.
I knew that's where it came from, though.
Tony Katz, we hope, coming up on the morning meeting. Now, Hanukkah starts tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes.
So he has no excuse to not be available today, although he has maintained a multimedia silence on our front for a fortnight now.
Yeah.
So I'm suspicious. Hopefully he's in good health, and hopefully an episode of the TKVS coming up next on the morning meeting.
Giving conservatives a voice in the tri-states.
I mean, this stuff moves people.
It's the morning meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD. WTAD.
The morning meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD. Sean Seacrease, Quaid alongside you. And a man who has become an occasional interloper, Tony Katz, joins us this morning. Oh, no!
Did you hang up on Tony?
That wasn't a setup. No, we must have lost him. All right, give me a minute to try and get him back.
Okay,
right?
well, do you want me to tell people about Tony's news? Is that...
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. Tony kind of hit and miss with us over the last several weeks, and Sean just confirmed with him that his schedule being adjusted somewhat at his home base in Indianapolis with his day job, which isn't waiting for us to call him, at his home station there in Indianapolis. So they're expanding his role and apparently negotiating and getting things ready to go with that. I have kind of cut into his morning meeting time. But now we welcome him to the show, and he is there. Tony Katz, welcome back, sir.
What is going on?
Man, we've just been worried about you. I mean, it's been like, silence for the last couple of weeks. We were hoping to grab you on what I believe is the day before Hanukkah, before you kind of, ran off and hid.
Well, I don't hide for Hanukkah. That's not how it works. Hanukkah, of course, is the celebration of the triumph of the Maccabees, and proving that we can assimilate into any culture if we just pass out as many gifts as you buy them.
Tony Katz.
So that's what we do. That's what we do.
Tony Katz with us this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, there's a whole bunch of things that have been going on since we got to talk to you last, and we love to kind of get your insights on those things. But one thing that just broke as we were wrapping up our previous segment, Jeb Bush has announced that he's going to form an official exploratory committee and run for president. I'm not surprised by that news. I just don't know how impactful it's going to be.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm surprised. I'm not. Of course, this is the direction. Sorry about that. That everyone said he was going to go, and now he is going. I think the story here is you got to check out Jim Garrity and National Review, talking about how George Bush refers to Hillary Clinton as his sister-in-law. You can't have a family so cozy with the Clintons and then think you're going to have somebody who can run hard against the Clintons. That dog won't hunt, and I don't think outside of establishment practices you can get people excited about a Jeb Bush candidacy. That would be far different than saying whether or not you can get people excited about a Jeb Bush presidency. I lived in Florida when Jeb Bush was governor, and while I have my objections, which I'm not going to detail at the moment, I will tell you that I was never opposed to Jeb. I always thought Jeb was certainly the smarter of the Bushes, if you will, at least the public Bushes, and has an affable style. I just don't think anyone's interested. I don't think there's any stomach for the Bush name.
And even if you look at a path to the White House, I mean, this isn't a guy who the grassroots right-wing side of the political aisle gets excited about. He's really kind of would be one of those guys that would have to be kind of a big tent centrist in my mind.
Well, I mean, he's a Common Core guy, so already he is. He certainly does not have the conservative bona fides there. But his path, I'm not quite sure if I could even know what his path yet is to the nomination. Remember, we're not talking about the presidency. We're only talking about the nomination. So you have him. You have, of course, Rick Perry, who doesn't have to form an exploratory committee. He already has a leg up. You have Scott Walker, who's won statewide elections in the course of 4 years. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody either. You have Mike Pence, who's the governor here in Indiana, who has managed to schedule a trip to Israel to talk about bringing more business to Indiana. Oh, and he's bringing his family. Oh, and he's going to be there for Christmas to enjoy the Holy Land. You've got people who are operating on many different levels, and I think Jeff starts from behind the 8 ball on a lot of them, right up until the moment you say, how much money will we have in the bank from day one? That's going to be the conversation.
Okay, now you brought up another thing, maybe inadvertently. Pence, Walker, Bush, Perry. These are all governors of large economic engine states. This has become kind of the sexy route to the White House, at least to announce a bid for the White House, much more than what was the trend maybe a quarter century ago where you saw a lot of senators and so forth running. Are we just in a point right now where governors are kind of higher profile and kind of fit the mold of what we think we're looking for?
Governors are usually where we get our presidents from because governors are people of action and senators are people of deliberation. And so governing is a much different thing in terms of being an executive. It's only when we were confronted with the choice of Senator Obama or Senator McCain that we got the worst of two senators, right? And now we don't even have a senator. We have a guy who would fit really well in the professorial lounge, which really would be the adjunct of professorial lounge at the community college, which really means that he'd be very adept at making the good coffee.
Tony Katz, our guest this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, I want to take it in a completely different direction. The Sony hack. I've been curious to know what you think about the Sony hack because the media's just tearing into this and reporting stuff as they get it, as if it's just juicy tabloid fare. Is this meant to be that way, or is there a larger message?
Larger message. We've talked about this on my show in depth. Only in that this is theft. It doesn't that these people are catty and awful and horrible to each other. That these people are racist or whatever did the emails contain. Well, that's what it contains, and they all work with each other. So that's kind of their problem. I have not read the majority of the emails because you quickly realize this is stolen. This isn't meant for my eyes. This isn't meant to be shared. That's not what this is all about. I believe that hackers should be hung. I believe they should be hung from the highest telephone poles. I don't believe in worrying about their rights, if you will, in as much as they don't believe in mine. Why do I care about them? Why are they special? Why are they important? The hacker themselves, the person who engages in learning about computers or testing systems to see their value, to their strengths or weaknesses, there is a need for that. We're talking about people who think that because they know more about computers, they can control your life. I believe in killing those people. Now, I'm not saying that for hyperbole. I think I've been with you guys long enough to know, and people listening know that that's not how I work. I believe in killing them. And I think that if you killed enough hackers, they'd stop. But this is theft of the highest order, and I don't want to be a party to that.
Now, it's interesting because this is essentially the same thing that happened with the Jennifer Lawrence photos, and yet we were all taking an emotional stance on that, titillated by some of the racy photos, but everyone was easily lined up and said, hey, this is an invasion of privacy. Is it just because Sony is a monolithic company or that the invasion came from offshore is what's alleged right now, that people feel like, well, let's just get in on this and have some fun, because it's the same crime that was perpetrated against Sony as was perpetrated against Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence naked does not give you information that allows you to further or destroy a career. I mean, that's the end result. All this other stuff does. It changes the game and could change your dealings with people and could result in the change in the making or the loss of millions of dollars. So that's why it has a different cachet to it.
Tony Katz with us this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, so much has been going on since we last got a chance to hang with you this morning on the morning meeting, and I must say some of that is you. You seem very calm, very very centered this morning.
Said I was always calm, always centered. My chakras are all aligned, which is good. No, man, I'm exhausted. It's a crazy schedule. It's getting busier. Starting, and we've been practicing it. Starting January 5th, my show will now run from 5 to 10 a.m. It's a 5-hour show now, and that doesn't happen too often in radio. I'm a very, very fortunate guy, and things are going well. And it's just it takes a lot of time. Preparing for a 1-hour show takes a lot of time. Preparing for a 4-hour show takes a tremendous amount of time. 5 hours, it's a lot. It's a lot to fit in. And the time crunch is on and the sleep crunch is on. So, I feel rested. I feel ready. I'm good to play. And, there it is.
The cynical among us would say, what have the people of Indianapolis done to deserve 5 hours of Tony Katz every day?
They've eaten their vegetables and prayed.
Well, they're right there next to the Hulkamaniacs from the 80s, I guess. Tony Katz.
Right, yes, and they have taken their vitamins.
Tony Katz, our guest this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, the dance over the Senate Intelligence Committee report has been ongoing. We have on Monday we have our audio roundup from things that kind of happened from the weekend, and now that some of the talking heads have had a chance to dive into this, and the Sunday shows got into it with their guests over the weekend. Everybody's playing kind of he said, she said on this, and I really, for one, don't think that's important. I think we're losing sight of the real conversation here, and that is what should we do to make America viable, to protect our interests around the world, and how libs are trying to rewrite what America stands for by saying, well, we might have done this in the past. Quaid actually brought this up, but we need to leave that dirty past behind and become this other better country in the future.
Well, what would Democrats know about creating a better country?
That's where you start.
I asked that question not for, again, the sake of hyperbole. I asked that as a clear and direct question. What do they know about creating a better country? Now, they could then point to a Republican who failed here or a Republican who failed there, but I'm talking about a totality of modern-day Democrats. What have they done to create a better country? I'll go back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and ask the same question. What did he do to create a better country? He pulled us out of the Depression. Through what and what lasting effect has it had? Maybe all the tinkering involved increased the duration of the Depression, as is often discussed by people who are historians on the fact. Tell me now what Democrats have done to better the nation. Exactly how am I better with Social Security? Exactly how am I better with all of these things? How am I better? You know what I haven't figured out yet? Every conversation in America ends up being a taxation conversation. I defy you to find me one thing in American history that the income tax has made better. Find me one. The income tax has divided us. The income tax has hurt us. The income tax has ripped us apart. The income tax has ripped families apart. The income tax is confiscatory. The income tax hurts people. Show me where it has ever helped. Ever in the history of mankind in the United States of America, it's been 101 years of the United States income tax. Tell me once. Tell me where it has helped. So I point to Democrats and I ask the question. Show me their understanding of how to run a country, how to build a country, how to grow a country. That's all I want to know. But the question was in guise of the CIA report, the Senate Democrats report on the CIA that was not a fully balanced report in bringing an understanding of what torture is. One of the things that's talked about this report, and I've disagreed with people, including people who I consider to be very, very bright, is they all say that it makes America more vulnerable. That's something that you've heard a fair amount of.
Yeah.
I reject this premise. A report does not make America more vulnerable to a terrorist attack. Allowing terrorists to breathe makes us more vulnerable to a terrorist attack. And it's about time, especially when you take a look at what just happened in Sydney, you take a look at what's now going on as we speak in Pakistan. Last count I had was 126 children killed, and they specifically targeted the children in this army school because they wanted the Pakistanis to feel the pain of what the Pakistanis have done to other Taliban leaders. Now what? What's your plan? Every day, we live in some type of fear because they are allowed to be alive. My question to America is, how long do you want that to last?
Tony Katz with us this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, any chance that the Sydney incident gets classified as workplace violence? We've seen that here with Fort Hood when it happened here in the U.S.
I don't care if they call it a puppet show. The people of Australia know what happened, and the question is, what will they do about it? Will they change their own gun laws? Will they change their own immigration laws? Will you see any kind of proactive movement? You know, there's something happening in Germany right now. Very, very interesting, and people are trying to classify it as a neo-Nazi demonstration, that's an anti-Islam demonstration from neo-Nazi sympathizers. But maybe it isn't the neo-Nazi sympathizers. There's still a lot of information I need to get on that. But you're seeing this conversation about we're not going to have this. We're not going to lose our countries, just like the UK has lost itself to radicalized Islam. People don't want to lose their sense of self, their sense of being, and a life that they think is valuable. Australia is now up. What's your plan, Australia? We're all waiting.
Tony Katz with us this morning on the morning meeting. Tony, when you get great news like your own morning show is expanding starting on January 5th, or if people just want to celebrate the holidays, what is Tony Katz smoking right now for a special occasion? What's the recommendation?
Well, the other day it was the Christoph Sumatra Lancero, which is a much thinner cigar than you normally see. It's really being able to get the flavors out of the wrapper, which is what a Lancero does, popular in Europe, not so popular in here, but growing to a certain extent here. The Christoph Sumatra, I think, is a great cigar. It's not my everyday. It's certainly not my go-to. But I think there's a good flavor palette there that's just enjoyable and just rich enough to enjoy. And I think Christoph, in and of itself as a brand, makes fantastic cigars. Glenn Case is the guy over there. And so that's on my list right now.
All right. Tony Katz. Tony, we appreciate it, buddy, and congratulations on the expanded role come the new year.
Thank you, sir.
Where we go, others will follow.
That's who we are.
Even if it's not the best idea. The Morning Meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck, and you're listening to The Morning Meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD.
Okay, Music Man. The very beginning of the bump here, to me, always has like a real U2 vibe to it.
You think that's the U2's rhythm section?
I don't think it's their rhythm section. I just think maybe there's some inspiration
there.
There's
an influence.
Yeah, there's a real vibe to it, that early kind of 80s U2 sound there. I don't know. Maybe that's just me reading into things. Sean Seacrease, Quaid with you this morning on the morning meeting. Boy, for a show that we knew, was going to be interesting. It turned into a real wild card on Tuesday.
This was a good one. I enjoyed this. Mary was worried about who we were going to have on.
Why is Red worried about what we're doing?
I'm not really sure. I don't know. We're in her head.
Is it, well, no, I don't think that's at all. I think it's a latent maternal instinct that she never got to work out.
Really?
Yes, I do. We'll talk to her about that at some point. All right, we got like 2 minutes here, so I want to get to what these.
I already know the answer to this.
What these, I hesitate to even call them people, did to one of my beloved locations on Earth. Peru's government came out yesterday and said the environmental change group Greenpeace, militant, earthmongers, won't give up the names of their activists that are accused of damaging the world-renowned Nazca lines.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they cut out some huge cloth letters, draped them by the lines, and left footprints in the adjacent desert during a publicity stunt. Mm-hmm. The UN's World Heritage Site in Peru's coastal desert, activists were trying to make an impression on delegates at the UN climate talks that are being held in nearby Lima.
Wait a minute. So they want everybody to pay attention to climate change by defacing
a World Historic Site.
Okay. Okay.
Apparently, the people at the climate talks the UN was hosting weren't radical enough for Greenpeace, and the changes they want to see. Now, if you don't know what the Nazca lines are, there are these huge geoglyphs that are in the shape of different animals and things like that, some historians say, well, they were there for a religious or cultural significance. You would, walk through them and go on this kind of spiritual journey. It represented some kind of rite. That's what they say. The more fringe philosophers about ancient history, say because they're so large, you can't actually see them from the earth. The only place you can see them from
is in the air.
And they're how old? So they think there's some kind of ancient alien traveler sign thing. So interesting debate when it comes to that. That portion of Peru where the Nazca lines are is so guarded that even their top officials can't go there without several layers of official passes. You have to wear special shoes in order to preserve it.
But Greenpeace went and tromped all over.
They went and tromped all over that thing.
And now aliens are mad.
I'm very upset.
And right. Sean's mad.
That's going to do it for us this morning. Hey, I'm an alien here, too. We're all made out of star stuff. Coming up tomorrow on the morning meeting, we delve into the CIA intelligence report.
Morning meeting adjourned. Join us again tomorrow for the best talk in the tri-states. The morning meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD. The best talk in the tri-states. The morning meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD. The best talk in the tri-states. The morning meeting on Talk Radio 930 WTAD.